This morning, I'm reflecting on how God is our guideline. We're certainly following a lot of guidelines these days, are we not? The President of the United States says that if you have 10 more people, we shouldn't gather. That's the guideline. You shouldn't gather in a large gathering. The California governor issued a guideline saying that unless you're an essential worker, you should really try to stay at home. Attempt to stay at home, be at home during this time. That's a guideline. We're going to the grocery store, and grocery store is a permissible thing to do at this time, to shop. And my wife, she went to the grocery store, and they're putting a lot of guidelines out these days where if you're going in there, and you should be apart from each other, you should keep a distance from one another. She saw this older gentleman that was walking around the grocery store buying stuff, and there was an instance where this older gentleman walked behind a woman, and this woman, she freaked out. He was just walking behind her, and she freaked out, saying that, "Don't you know that you're supposed to keep a distance from me?" And she became very, very angry at him. I'm thinking about guidelines and how this world only has one guideline right now that guides their lives, and that's the social distancing guideline, in which they're feeling that this is the guideline that saves their lives. However, we as Christians, I believe that we have a greater guideline. We have a much better guideline, and that is the guideline of the Word of God. And I want to share with you from 1 Peter chapter 4 this morning. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8, or 7 through 8, it says, "The end of all things is at hand. Therefore be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins." I'm thinking about how we're supposed to live in this time and what guideline truly should guide us. And certainly the world is approaching this situation with their own guidelines, and we're affected by it too. We're thinking that we should follow these guidelines, and somehow, in some way, perhaps these guidelines have overtaken the guidelines of the Word of God and the Word of God, namely the guideline of love. I wonder too is that when we gather, when we're supposed to come back, when this is all over, are we going to love each other the same way? Are we going to still be kind to one another? Are we still going to be patient to one another? Or are we going to be upset at one another when we walk a little closer to each other? Is the Word of God our guideline, or is the world's guideline our guideline? Because I can assure you, if the Word of God is our guideline, then we're going to exemplify love, patience, kindness to one another, even when we make mistakes. As we just read, love covers a multitude of sins. So let this time be a time where we shine forth for Jesus. We walk in humility, we walk in love, but at the same time, we let the Word of God be our guideline, be our comfort.